Hi, thank you for tuning in to Noire Histoire. I'm Natasha, and this is the August 2020 edition of Noire News. The episode includes the usual memorial and good news, along with feature stories about gender-based violence, the latest happenings within the injustice system, Brandy's People interview, where she discusses her depression and mental health, and the coup in Mali. If you haven't already, please take a moment to click the subscribe button. Click the notification bell to ensure you don't miss future episodes. Memorial: Bob Ryland. Born on June 16, 1920, died on August 2, 2020. Robert Henry Ryland Jr. was born in Chicago and lost his twin and mother about a year after his birth, which resulted in his father sending him to Mobile, Alabama to live with his grandmother. He witnessed several incidents of racial violence in Mobile, such as the death of a cousin at the hands of the Ku Klux Klan and the lynching of several neighbors. Ryland began playing tennis when he returned to Chicago and won state and junior titles in high school with coaching from his father. He attended college on tennis scholarships, during which he was sometimes forced to eat separately from teammates at restaurants that wouldn't serve him. After serving in the Army during World War II, Ryland eventually graduated with a bachelor's degree in physical education. He began playing professionally on the black circuit before becoming the first black player in the World Pro Tour in 1959. In addition to playing professionally, Ryland also taught tennis in Washington and New York for many decades, counting several celebrities amongst his students. He remained an active tennis player and teacher and was the oldest registered tennis player in New York at the time of his death, which was caused by pneumonia. Michael Ojo, born on January 5, 1993, died on August 7, 2020. Nigerian-born Michael Olalekan Ojo played soccer throughout his youth until he switched to basketball after experiencing a growth spurt that took him from 6 feet 6 inches to 7 feet 1 inch. His discovery in 2010 while playing at the Giants of Africa camp enabled him to move to America, where he attended college and pursued basketball scholarships. As he didn't have much playing experience, Ojo put a lot of effort into improving, with hopes of being drafted after graduation, and became a force on Florida State University's team by his senior year. While he was invited to private workouts for NBA teams, he went undrafted and left America to play in Serbia. Early in 2020, Ojo tested positive for COVID, from which he recovered, but later collapsed while training and could not be resuscitated. James Kamalaga Ugandan Harris, born on May 22, 1950, died on August 9, 2020. James Harris was born in Senatobia, Mississippi, and worked as a sharecropper and truck driver. Standing at 6 feet 7 inches and weighing in at almost 400 pounds, he began wrestling but didn't experience any real success until a promoter came up with the character Kamala the Ugandan, who was based on dictator Idi Amin. Portraying a persona based on stereotypes about Africans, Kamala started in the Mid-South wrestling territory before moving on to the WWE in the 1980s. Despite wrestling's popularity, Harris later admitted that he felt underpaid and mistreated in comparison to other wrestlers of the time. When his appearances and matches became inconsistent, Harris returned to driving trucks, but experienced health issues, including bilateral leg amputations due to diabetes. James Harris passed away at the age of 70 from COVID-19. Raymond Allen, born on March 5, 1929, died on August 10, 2020. Raymond Allen, an actor best known for portraying Uncle Woodrow, Woody Anderson on Sanford and Son, as well as Ned the Wino in Good Times, has died at the age of 91. Allen was born in Kansas City, Missouri, the youngest of his parents' 12 children. He appeared in several hit sitcoms during the 1970s before retiring from acting during the 1980s due to medical reasons. In 2016, he became a resident of a healthcare facility as a result of pneumonia issues. Allen remained at the facility and was found to have a bacterial infection in May and was later found unresponsive on the morning of his death. Chi-Chi DeVane, born on September 24, 1985, died on August 20, 2020. Xavier Davenport was born in Shreveport, Louisiana, and later adopted the stage name Chi-Chi DeVane. DeVane appeared on RuPaul's Drag Race and was a fan favorite, which paved the way for later appearances on Little America, the YouTube series Bootleg Opinions, and Hey Queen. They had recently experienced health issues, including hospitalization in July for high blood pressure and kidney failure. DeVane mentioned pneumonia issues while posting to social media during their most recent hospital admission. The exact cause of death has not been revealed. D.J. Rogers, born on May 9, 1948, died on August 22, 2020. Dwayne Julius, D.J. Rogers, was a 70s R&B musician who blended gospel and jazz and is best known for the songs Say You Love Me and Love Brought Me Back. Rogers was a singer, songwriter, and producer who played multiple instruments, but despite recording for several labels, was never quite able to hit on a strategy to capitalize on his talent. While he collaborated with other major artists, some of who covered his songs, by the 90s Rogers was primarily focused on gospel music. And now on to the features. First up, a few stories about gender-based violence. Cuba Gooding Jr.'s sexual misconduct allegations. Cuba Gooding Jr. is currently on trial in New York City for sexual misconduct stemming from allegations that he groped 3 women on different occasions in 2018 and 2019. Since pleading not guilty last October, several other women came forward with accusations of similar misconduct taking place in major cities around the country between 2003 to 2019. In August, yet another woman came forward, but this time accusing Gooding of luring her to his hotel room, inappropriately undressing, forcibly preventing her from leaving the room, and raping her twice. Gooding is now facing a criminal trial for sexual misconduct and potentially a civil lawsuit stemming from the 2013 rape accusation. Darius Guice's legal issues. LSU alum and Washington running back Darius Guice was arrested and charged with 1 count of felony strangulation, 1 count of destruction of property, and 3 counts of assault and battery. The charges stem from 3 alleged domestic violence incidents from earlier this year that involved his girlfriend. Washington, they need to do something about that generic name, then cut Guice a few hours after he was charged, likely in part because the team has been dealing with sexual harassment allegations of its own. This came a few days after another woman, a former LSU tennis player, filed a lawsuit against Guice which accused him of rape. The lawsuit claims that Guice had non-consensual sex with a woman in her home while she had passed out following a night that involved drinking. A second woman, also a former LSU student, made similar accusations against Guice, though she has not filed a lawsuit, or not at this time. She hasn't at this time. Both women decided against filing reports with law enforcement after the incidents, but have stated that they notified the school's Title IX office, but it seems no further action was taken. Megan Thee Stallion and the Black community's discomfort with using the justice system. Rapper Megan Thee Stallion was shot in the feet in July, but initially refused to name the shooter. After several weeks, during which some commenters claimed the shooting was a hoax, Megan shared photos of the injury on social media and revealed the shooter was another rapper, Tory Lanez. The two were previously romantically involved, and Megan alleges that following an argument in a vehicle, Tory shot her in the feet. She had initially told police that the injury resulted from her stepping on glass, and she feared that, given recent events, the police might begin shooting if they knew a gun was present, and then also feeling obligated to protect someone who had done her harm. I haven't kept up with hip-hop or R&B in years, so I don't know or follow the career of either of these people, but I felt sorry for Megan after hearing about the shooting and her reasoning for feeling uncomfortable with seeking justice. Where other communities see law enforcement as a resource for protection and the justice system as a resource for legal redress, that's not always the case for Black people. As Black people in America, our relationship with law enforcement and the justice system is very complicated. Often, law enforcement and even regular citizens wield negative presumptions about Black people as justification for aggression and excessive use of force. Black people have to weigh the potential pros and cons of having to interact with police officers to file a complaint or press charges against someone. There's irony in the real possibility of having already dangerous and tense situation escalate by involving police officers who are supposed to be peace officers. And then, as a Black person, having to deal with the community possibly seeing you as a traitor for seeking protection from another Black person from this external force that is often harmful to members of the community. This results in members of the Black community being victimized by both other Black people and also law enforcement or the justice system. Who can you turn to when you fear being victimized at every turn? It's incredibly difficult to fight a war on two fronts. We as a community need to have serious conversations about the harm we experience at the hands of both people within and outside of our community. I'm not talking about the dismissive media talking point of so-called Black on Black crime. We face unique circumstances as a community. And if we ever hope to overcome the injustices we face in wider society, we cannot victimize each other. We also cannot excuse the victimization of a person simply because the perpetrator is also Black. The goal is not to abolish the justice system, but rather to ensure that it works fairly for everyone as both a resource and with regards to prosecution. The injustice system. The state of Tennessee has passed a new law that now makes it a felony for protesters to encamp on state property during demonstrations. Protesters who are charged and found guilty of breaking the law can be sentenced to 1 to 6 years in prison and lose their right to vote. The law came about as a result of protests at the state capitol, where demonstrators gathered to demand a discussion with the governor about inequality, police brutality, and removal of the bust of a white supremacist. Instead of meeting with protesters, the governor and lawmakers devised a new piece of legislation intended to curtail First Amendment rights under the guise of protecting police officers and preventing the large-scale demonstrations that have occurred in other cities. In Kenosha, Wisconsin, police shot Jacob Blake in the back 7 times after he either reached in or attempted to get into the driver's seat of his vehicle. The shooting followed a scuffle near the rear passenger side, where the police held Blake in a headlock while hitting him and a female police officer tased him. Blake's 3 children were in the vehicle, and several bystanders were nearby watching the altercation. So far, there have been 2 short videos released showing the scuffle and the shooting, but not all the events leading up to the shooting, so it's unclear what exactly happened before the scuffle and the shooting. Police say a knife was later found on the driver's side floorboard, while an attorney for Blake's family has stated that there was no weapon in the vehicle. Fortunately, Blake was rushed to the hospital and survived, but is currently paralyzed from the waist down, though it's too soon for doctors to determine if the paralysis is temporary or permanent. And some updates. Oprah Winfrey erected 26 billboards around Louisville, Kentucky, calling for the arrest of the officers that killed Taylor earlier this year. One of the billboards was vandalized with a splash of red paint on Taylor's forehead, resulting in what looks like a gunshot wound. A mural that was erected at the location in Minneapolis where George Floyd was murdered was defaced with black spray paint. It became one of the latest George Floyd murals around the country to be defaced. Brandy discusses depression and mental health. Brandy recently released her first album in 8 years, and while making her PR rounds, revealed in an interview with People that she'd experienced bouts of major depression. Born in Mississippi, Noire shot to fame in her teens with multiple hit albums and a television sitcom. But the pressure to maintain her image as she matured and experienced relationship drama and a car accident that led to a woman losing her life took a serious toll. Dealing with all of these setbacks in the limelight sent Brandy into a spiral of deep depression. In the interview, she admits to feeling hopeless and contemplating suicide, but ultimately deciding to seek help. She made her mental health a priority and relied on therapy, meditation, journaling, and her faith to push through. I appreciate this new trend of celebrities opening up about their mental health struggles. It goes a long way towards helping to eradicate the stigmas around discussing mental health in the Black community. Don't think that this is something you need to hide or go through alone. We might not have the same resources as celebrities, but there are resources available if you need help. Mali coup. Military leaders in Mali led a coup that deposed President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. Citizens within Mali seem to cheer the overthrow of the government, while the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has called for Keïta to return to power. The coup follows months of large street demonstrations where protesters gathered under the direction of Imam Mahmoud Diku. It's believed that civilians were dismayed by corruption scandals within the Keïta government, where high-ranking officials lived a good life while poor citizens were left without access to resources. Soldiers also faced death fighting militant jihadists in the north of the country while experiencing issues with their pay. International partners and African neighbors weren't exactly pleased with Keïta either, but disapproved of how he was removed from power. According to reports, an agreement could not be reached, but Keïta is no longer interested in returning to power, and military leaders have stated that elections would be held to enable Malians to decide the country's path forward. Yes, you just have to wait to see what happens. And now for some good news. 2020 will likely go down in history as one of the suckiest years ever. But a lot of organizations, celebrities, and regular people stepped up this year when mankind was in dire need of support, compassion, and humanity. And while some industries have slowed down and shut down, leading to business closures and job losses, others are thriving. Anthony Hamilton has been active in Charlotte, North Carolina, helping to clean up one public housing apartment complex in July and working with volunteers at another to give out groceries along with health and school supplies in August. Corey Wise linked up with Friends of Public School Harlem to distribute book bags and school supplies to 200 families with plans to distribute hundreds more in the coming weeks. 21 Savage hosted his 5th annual It's a Back to School Drive in Decatur, where book bags, laptops, school supplies, and face masks were distributed. Savage also aims to teach youth about financial literacy through his Leading by Example Foundation nonprofit. Lizzo and Tyra Banks have both inked first-look deals with major media companies. Lizzo with Amazon Studios, for which she will produce streaming television projects for Prime Video, and Banks with ABC Signature, through which her all-female team at Bankable Productions will create scripted and unscripted programs. Roc Nation has partnered with Long Island University's Brooklyn campus to launch the Roc Nation School of Music, Sports, and Entertainment. Beginning the fall 2021 semester, students will be able to study towards undergraduate degrees in music, music technology, entrepreneurship, production, and sports management. TV One has signed a distribution deal with the internet television company Philo TV, which currently offers a package of 60 cable networks for $20 per month. Philo TV sees the partnership as part of its larger plan to address media diversity and provide support for Black-owned businesses and social justice organizations. Less than a decade after accounting for more than half of the world's cases of wild polio, Nigeria has been declared free of wild polio. More than 95% of Africa's population has now been immunized against wild polio through vaccination programs. Less than a decade after accounting for more than half of the world's cases of wild polio, Nigeria has been declared free of wild polio. More than 95% of Africa's population has now been immunized against wild polio through vaccination programs that mobilize healthcare workers to travel village to village and hand-deliver vaccines. The push to rid Nigeria of wild polio was complicated by some areas being remote and others under siege by militants, making it difficult and dangerous for health workers. Almost 18 years after the death of Jason Jam Master J. Mizell of Run DMC, the acting U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York has charged Carl Jordan Jr. and Ronald Washington with his murder. Prosecutors allege that the pair murdered Mizell in retaliation for him cutting Washington out of a drug deal. If convicted, both Jordan and Washington face a minimum sentence of 20 years in prison. Washington is currently in prison for an unrelated robbery. Former running back Jason Wright has become both the first Black and youngest team president in NFL history. Wright played for multiple teams during his 7 years in the league before obtaining an MBA from the University of Chicago. He brings his advanced degree and 7 years of consulting experience to Washington's business division. Tasked with taking care of the organization's front office business, Wright will be expected to help the team end its performance slump and move past allegations of sexual harassment. Thanks for tuning in. Show notes and sources are available on the Noire website via the link in the episode description. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the thumbs up button. You can also share it online, on social media, or with someone you think might enjoy the episode. Doing this will help other people find the show, which helps it to grow. If you aren't already subscribed to the Noire YouTube channel, I hope you subscribe now and return to get motivated, get inspired, and get more stories of Black history made and in the making. Until next time, take care.